I saw a lot of people go home in 2024. And what I saw was that they made some mistakes in terms of, of course, they're relying on their own understanding. So they're doing the DIY approach.
I wish that I had
Just
had a consultation
Yeah.
with a lawyer or a consultant back then. I cannot tell you how much I hate this.
Yes.
No immigration lawyer in Canada is going to refund your fees if you got refused.
Canadian immigration is changing every week. Today, we're here with an immigration consultant, Cassandra Foltz. She's the founder of Dorothy Foltz Immigration. Cassandra specializes in immigration, and she advocates very heavily for her clients and has a very good success rate. You came from the US in 2008. So how and why? Well, why and then how?
Right.
Okay.
So I was in a relationship with a Canadian guy, and we really just had to make a choice at that time. Would we stay in the US or would we come to Canada?
Is now still a good time to come to Canada? So what are some of the biggest mistakes that you're seeing clients make on their immigration journey right now?
Not asking for
Yes.
is one of the biggest mistakes that people make. So before you even speak with the consultant or lawyer, you need to do, will you refund my fees if my application is refused?
Is mass deportation actually enforceable? Canadian immigration is changing every week, and there are more temporary residents in Canada than there are permanent resident seats for the next 3 years. Now, as of December 2024, there are 3,049,277 temporary residents in Canada, and that number goes up every quarter. However, for the projection for the next 3 years, only 1,140,000 of those temporary residents will become permanent residents. That's less than half. And that number could go down if we see a change in government. Today, we're here with an immigration consultant, Cassandra Foltz, to talk about the state of immigration in 2025. We're going to caution you with regards to the DIY immigration approach, and stick with us to the end as we talk about your chances of success in 2025. Welcome, Cassandra.
Thank you so much, Christina. It's my pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. And I just want to credit networking to making this possible. Like if anybody watches any of our immigration stories, we're always like, somebody always magically just mentions it. I'm like, thank you for mentioning without me asking a question. Magic networking made this possible. I'll tell that story another day, but network is important for personal and professional reasons.
It's who you know.
Exactly. So Cassandra, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Cassandra before we take the stage. So Cassandra specializes in immigration from Canada to the US. She also specializes in immigration cases pertaining to procedural fairness, post-deportation authorization to return to Canada, study permits, PR card renewals on humanitarian and compassionate grounds, criminal rehabilitation, temporary permits, Canadian citizenship, family sponsorship, and visitor's visa. You name it, she's got it. And she advocates very heavily for her clients and has a very good success rate, and is involved in even applications with prior refusal. So if you had a rejection before, my first visa was rejected. Have I ever told you that? My first visa was rejected. But she's good at overcoming that rejection and getting you approval. So she's the founder of Dorothy Foltz Immigration, and she's here today to talk about what we said we were going to talk about. So let's dive into it. Thank you so much for being here, by the way.
Thanks, Christina. It's really my pleasure. I'm so glad that you invited me.
Absolutely. So now you came from the US. Usually
Right.
the people I talk to are from the Caribbean or some other faraway land. But you came from the US in 2008. So how and why? Well, why and then how?
Good question. So, back then, I came to Canada. I was sponsored, actually.
Hmm,
It's funny because I'm just like my clients, right?
okay.
So, I was in a relationship with a Canadian guy,
Okay.
and we ended up getting serious, right? Like the US, it's our neighbor. You meet people, and we really just had to make a choice at that time. Would we stay in the US or would we come to Canada?
Ah,
And there were several considerations that we took into account at that time, one of which was the processing time, right? Back then and still today, it takes a long time to get your US immigration sorted. This is not something that is going to happen overnight. And then
okay.
another consideration that was really important was what about working, right? Because there would be a time for at least, several months to a year that one of us would not have been able to work. Right. So, how would the other person support the person who is not able to work?
Right.
Now, the difference was I'm from the state of South Carolina, and things are actually really looking up in South Carolina these days. But back then, the economy was not good. Whereas my partner at that time, he was from the GTA. So we decided to come to Canada because it would be much easier for him to support both of us in Toronto than for me to support both of us in South Carolina. And then, bing, bang, boom, the rest is history. We got married and he sponsored me here. I can tell you that mistakes were made in that application because, of course, this is way before, immigration was even like a gleam in my eye. Way
Mm-hmm.
before any of that. I didn't know what I didn't know. And I'll
Mm.
never forget the humiliation when we crossed the border into Canada and Canada Border Services officer was like, why did you do this?
Oh,
Like, I don't know why. I read it online. I thought that's what I was supposed to do. Anyway, nowadays I don't have to do that anymore. But that's how and why it happened.
okay. All right. Interesting story, which will, we know, like when we talk about what we're going to talk about next, you made some mistakes too, and we're going to talk about some mistakes that other
We've
people
all
are
been there.
making. So when you came, it was 2008, long, 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 long time ago. 2025, no. And the question is like, because there's still lots of people prospects in Canada. Some people don't really know what's going on. Is now still a good time to come to Canada?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know why? Because there's no time like the present. It's always a good time to come to Canada. Canada retains its values that it's founded upon, right? Freedom of individuals, freedom of the press, freedom of religion. These foundational freedoms, which are enshrined in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, persist to this day. This is not going to change. So,
Mhm.
absolutely, it's a wonderful time to come to Canada. And, it may not be as easy as it was back in the day, but even when I came to Canada in 2008, it wasn't as easy as it was in the past. You used to
Yeah.
be able to just show up, right? Just
Hmm.
come over and here you are. But, every year that passes, things get a
Yeah.
little bit more difficult.
Hmm.
Things get a little bit more formal, more specific that
Yeah.
you have to do, but it's still a great time to come.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into the meat of the matter, right? Because 2025 is a critical year. We saw 2024, a lot of changes in 2024, more change than I've seen in my 10 years of being an immigrant. Okay. And I
Me
saw
too.
a lot of people. Oh, yeah. Okay, fine. And you've been in the business for over 15 years, right? So now I saw a lot of people go home in 2024. And for some, it was avoidable. For most, it was avoidable. And what I saw was that they made some mistakes in terms of, of course, they're relying on their own understanding. So they're doing the DIY approach. Also, they are delaying in making decisions. So even if they went and got a consultation or whatever like that, they're like hemming and hawing, thinking that some magic is going to happen, some miracle is going to happen. And it was to their detriment. And in my last video, I strongly suggested that, especially now in 2025, people need to get professional help to get a strategy. So let us talk about like the risks of the DIY approach, especially now in 2025. Like, what are some examples of people that you've seen make these mistakes?
Okay, story time. So there are definitely some clients that I lose sleep thinking about it, right? Their cases have already moved on, and they're already finished, frankly. But I still think about them, and
Yeah.
I remember those cases, and it bothers me to this day. I can tell you a story of a client that I had from Jamaica. Now, someone had called me on behalf of this client, so they were put in touch with me from someone who I knew, and so when I spoke with them, they had just gotten back from flagpoling at the border. So they had gone down to the border with the US from Toronto to get their post-graduation work permit. And this is back when you could do that, by the way. Like you can't do
Yeah.
that anymore, so don't
Back
do
in the
that.
day.
But you could, right? For a minute, you could do that, and that's what she had done. So she had gone down to the border
Mhm.
to get her PGWP. She was a student. She had like three kids with her, like three little kids, and she had a husband with her. The whole family goes down to the border. First of all, this is a nightmare on its own. Okay, the border is not great anyway, and they're little kids. They're there. They're crying. They're bored. They want to be at home. So they weren't doing them any favors. So what happened is this. If I had been able to speak with her before she
Mhm.
had gone to the border,
Right.
then I would tell her, do not go to the border, first thing. And second thing, I would tell her, do not apply for your post-graduation work permit. What she didn't know, what she wasn't aware of, was that you only are allowed one
One shot.
PGWP
Hmm.
for your entire lifetime.
Hmm.
You get one.
Hmm.
So you can't go to school, get the work permit, go back to school, get another work permit. This is not a thing. It doesn't exist.
Hmm.
And unfortunately for her, and this is something that I have seen many, many times, she had the very minimum amount of schooling that you can have to get the PGWP. What is that? 8 months. All right. And what's 8 months of work experience going to get you in Canada?
Hmm.
Nothing.
Hmm.
Zero. You're not eligible for Canadian experience class. You're
Hmm.
not going to be eligible for anything, right? So it was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster, and it cannot be undone. It
Yeah.
cannot be undone. They
Hmm.
gave her the work permit at the border, and so most people would think, oh, that's a success. That's a
Yeah.
triumph. She went there and got her work permit. No, no. If only they had refused it, then I would have told her, okay, no problem. Go back to school.
Yeah.
Just go back to school, do more schooling to get a longer PGWP, and then you'll be eligible for Canadian experience class, and then, right?
Right.
Because the husband can get another work permit, and then, the kids can get more study permits, they can keep on going to school, and everyone's fine. But then there's actually a long-term solution. You will be eligible for permanent residence.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, she got her 8-month work permit and is out of luck because this family, they were really they were on the borderline anyway of
Yeah.
being eligible to get that invitation to apply for PR. These are people who are well into their 30s.
Hmm.
So they're
Mm.
already on the cusp of
Yeah.
beginning to lose points. It was such a tough situation, and it absolutely broke my heart for them
Yeah.
because they had spent so much money
To be
to
here.
come to Canada
As with
to
many.
go to school, and
Hmm.
then finding jobs and like getting their kids in school, only to have to tell them, I'm so sorry, but it's over. It's
Yeah.
over. When your work permit is done, you're not going to get PR, and you're going to have to go home.
Yeah.
And the truly the crux of the matter was, if only I had spoken to them before they went to the border. I
Yeah.
called them as soon as my friend gave me the information, right? So
Right.
I spoke to them immediately, but it was too late.
Yeah.
So the moral of that story is, please, please, please speak to a professional before you do anything.
Anything.
Before
Yeah.
you take any action,
Hmm.
make any decision, talk to someone first.
Yes.
Do not take advice from the forums or from Facebook groups or from Reddit, social media, YouTube, none of that stuff. Just speak to someone
Yeah.
directly,
Yep.
specifically
Hmm.
about your case,
Case. Hmm.
because the general advice that is out there may not be appropriate
Yes.
for you.
Hmm.
So that's one story of someone who really would have benefited from some specific advice. Another one that honestly lives rent free in my mind is another client, coincidentally from Jamaica, totally unrelated to this one, and this person, I think about them frequently. They had done a spousal sponsorship application, right? Like me. So, of course, my heart is already with them.
Yes.
And I got a call from the sponsor, who, of course, is Canadian. So she's sponsoring her husband from Jamaica.
Hmm.
And the sponsor, the Canadian, she is the one who did the majority of the form filling, which is, common. So she filled it out, la la la. The principal applicant, the husband from Jamaica, he looked at it, said, okay, looks good. They submitted the application. Well, several months later, they get something called a procedural fairness letter.
Ah,
And so this letter, it's a letter from IRCC, and what it says is, I intend to refuse your application because of XYZ. And you
hmm.
have 30 days to respond to this letter to assuage my concerns, essentially.
Right.
And the issue in this case was that the the person being sponsored from Jamaica, he had actually made a refugee claim in the United States 2 decades ago, long time ago, and never told the wife, okay? Never told her, didn't think it mattered, didn't think it was important. NBD, like who cares, a million years ago. So she didn't even know. She didn't know that this had happened. He had made that refugee claim in the US, and because she didn't know, she didn't disclose it on the application. And you have to disclose
Mm.
every prior immigration application on that sponsorship. So the fact that he had been deported from the U.S. after this refugee claim did not work out was also not disclosed. So now here they are with procedural fairness letter, and now they're with me. So here I am trying to essentially clean up a mess that never had to exist in the first place. Because if we had started from the beginning together, I would have asked the question, have you ever made a refugee claim? And then he would have said,
Hmm.
yes, I have. And I would say, okay, great. Disclose. And
Yeah.
then there's nothing to say.
Hmm.
NBD, it really would be no big deal. It
Hmm.
wouldn't hurt their sponsorship application. This was a million years ago. But
Yeah.
what ended up hurting them was that they did not disclose it.
Right.
Right? 99 times out of 100,
Hmm.
even if something, bad has happened in the past, you overstayed, you worked illegally, right? These things can be fixed. But
Hmm.
what cannot be fixed is misrepresentation.
Yeah.
So this never needed to happen. And I think about them as well. I
Okay, so
think
it was flagged for misrepresentation, and did he get the 5-year ban?
still waiting for the outcome of that one, but they have
Wow.
really been waiting a long time.
Wow.
We made an argument that this does not constitute misrepresentation for, I won't get into the, legalese of it. But, so fingers crossed that it works, but it never should have been this close. This never needed to happen. They could have avoided the entire
Altogether.
thing.
Hmm.
So yeah, please do not DIY that. Those are my lessons for today.
I know, I know. And speaking of mistakes, right? So of course we see some clear mistakes there, and a lot of it, could have been avoided with a DIY approach. I made a mistake on my very first student visa application. It was rejected. And then I went to a consultant. You made some mistakes on your spousal sponsorship application at the very beginning. So what are some of the biggest mistakes, other than the ones that I mentioned, that you're seeing clients make on their immigration journey right now?
So, just to reiterate, misrepresentation. It's the biggest mistake you can make. It's actually the worst thing. Like I said, if someone has worked illegally, if they have overstayed in the past, these things, they can really be fixed
Yeah,
most of the time, almost all of the time.
right,
But I can't fix it if you get caught in a lie, right?
right.
If you get caught in a lie and you're found to have misrepresented, then this is an automatic 5-year bar against permanent residents in Canada. And I
Mhm.
cannot undo that.
Right.
The law is very strict on that, and people don't realize that it's actually the biggest penalty in immigration is for misrep. It's
Hmm.
not for working illegally. It's not for overstaying. It's for lying, which
Hmm.
I find amusing because it's such a Canadian thing, such a Canadian, like culturally Canadian trait
Right.
that like the biggest punishment is for lying. So yeah, misrepresentation. You
Yeah.
you don't need to like tell them what you had for breakfast, but you do need to be honest. You need to be
Yeah.
fulsome in your replies. And not just that, you need to make sure that what you're saying is accurate. Make sure
Yeah.
you didn't accidentally leave anything out because you can accidentally misrep, believe it
Right.
or not.
Yeah.
And there is a case law for that because there have been people who are like, oh, I didn't know, right? And you still get caught holding the bag.
Yeah.
So Misrep is a huge mistake. Another thing that I would mention is failure to plan ahead. These are not the days any longer where, the first step is, let me just get to Canada, let me get my visa and get there, and then I'll figure it out. You cannot do that anymore. It is not 2015 any longer.
Yeah.
And this is advice I give to people all the time. If you're coming from the Caribbean, if you're coming from a lot of places in the world, then you already actually had to work hard just to get to Canada, right? Just to get that visa, to get on the plane. You already had to do work. For people in certain countries, it's actually, it's pretty easy to get here, right? If you're British, you're Irish, you're Aussie, right? You're Japanese, you fill out your little thing, you get on the plane. There's even an open work permit that you can get, right? It seems so easy. But my advice to them is the same. Yeah, you can get on the plane. Yeah, you can get out of there, but you can't just get here and figure it out.
Right.
You used to be able to do that. You can no longer proceed. No, totally not. Totally not. So failure to plan ahead is a huge, huge mistake in 2025. You got to make sure that you have a plan before you start taking steps, right? So be proactive is the name of the game.
Yes.
Another huge mistake that people make, which is really topical in 2025, is making a refugee claim when you are not a refugee. This is something that people do. There's a lot of bad advice floating around out there in the universe. On TikTok, I cannot tell you how much I hate this.
Yes.
If you are not the legal definition of a refugee, which is outlined in sections 96 and 97 of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, if you do not meet that legal definition, you are not a refugee.
Don't do it. Yeah.
And when your claim is rejected, and it will be rejected, this carries a lifetime bar from Canada. You get deported, all right? You get deported, and you're never coming back unless you get special permission in the form of an ARC, an authorization to return to Canada. And I want to be so clear with you. It is very difficult to get the ARC. The only time you're very likely going to get an ARC is if you are coming back as a permanent resident, right? So if someone sponsors you, or you do federal skilled worker and you get PR, then they can consider giving you authorization to return, even though you've been deported. But short of that, you're probably not coming back. And so it's so important to understand this is not simply another option. So please, please, please disregard any TikTok advice that says, oh, you should just make a refugee claim. No, you should not make a refugee claim. I can tell you just ever so briefly a story about someone who did get that advice on TikTok. They literally had the advice on TikTok. And this person was actually married to a Canadian. We were already doing the sponsorship, but this person saw on TikTok, I should go make a refugee claim. And they did. And they did. It is one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. That one also lives rent-free in my mind. I cannot believe that happened. So what happened? What do you think happened? Of course, this person comes, they make their refugee claim. It's rejected because they're not a refugee. Yeah. Right? It's rejected. And now they can't be sponsored. Right? So now they cannot be with their spouse who is Canadian. It is a disaster, an unmitigated disaster. So making a refugee claim is deadly serious. This is not simply another immigration option. Anyone who tells you that it is lying to you. Yeah. They're lying to you. It's not. So just don't. My biggest advice there. Just don't. Yes. And then the last thing that I would say in terms of mistakes are really not asking for help. You don't have to go it alone. Some things you can DIY and it's not a problem, right? Yeah. Are you building a birdhouse? There's no problem DIYing that, right? Even certain immigration applications that are very straightforward. Are you doing a working holiday visa? That's not such a big deal. And it's okay if you can do it on your own. Yeah. But there are some things that you should, frankly, not attempt on your own. You can do it, but just because you can do something does not mean that you should. One of my favorite quotes is, a man who represents himself has a fool for a client. Do you know who
Mhm.
said that?
No.
It was Abraham Lincoln.
Mhm.
He
Okay.
was a lawyer
Yeah.
for anyone who doesn't know. And that's what he said. Of course, they didn't mince words back in the 1860s, but a nicer way to say that is just simply, you don't know what you don't know. You
Yeah.
don't know, right?
Mhm.
Some
Mhm.
of us live this life. We're in
Mhm.
those regulations
Mhm.
every day. We're reading the public policies. We're familiar with the case law. We're digging around in this, completing these same application forms day in and day out. There's a huge difference from someone who lives it and someone who's just filling out the application forms.
Yes.
This is why I don't do my own taxes,
Yeah.
right? I call Jeffrey, my
Same.
accountant, and I'm like,
Mhm.
here you go, bud.
Yeah.
That's your problem now. Because he
Exactly.
knows. Could
Yeah.
I figure it out? Probably. I could
Mhm.
probably figure it out.
Mhm.
But what if I miss something? What if
Yep.
I miss something?
Mhm.
Is it worth the risk that I'm
Mhm.
going to make some grievous error because a box was not ticked? And now here I am on the hook for God knows how much money. It is not worth it. Long story
Mm-mm.
short, it's not worth it.
Mm-mm. Mhm.
So not asking for help is
Yes.
one of the biggest mistakes that people make.
Yes. And then on your point of it being worth it, right? Because a lot of the reasons why people don't ask for help is because of what it costs, right? And they are in a
Absolutely.
survival mindset, they're like trying to survive, trying to make it, trying to get to the glorious PR and ignoring the important things along, some of the important things along the way, using Dr. Google and such like that. So what are the hidden costs of these DIY immigration strategies, and the financial implications and potential threat to their overall goal? Navigating
This
it
is
alone.
It's such an important question. I'm glad you bring this up. So first and foremost, the cost of a consultation fee with an experienced immigration consultant or lawyer is going to be between 200 to 400 bucks for an hour. All
Hmm.
right. But the knowledge that you will receive during that hour is going to be absolutely priceless. You can find a representative who offers free consultations. They're out there for sure, but I am of the mind that you get what you pay for. A paid consult means that the rep is going to be able to spend plenty of time with you. They're
Yeah.
going to know your case
Hmm.
inside out. They're going
Hmm.
to be able to familiarize themselves with the details that impact you, as well as doing legal research to
Hmm.
advise you properly.
Hmm.
And you'll also get to know their personality to
Yeah.
determine, is this someone that you could imagine yourself having a productive professional relationship with, right? Like
Hmm.
you're interviewing them in the consultation to see, might I like to work with them again in the future?
Yeah.
So all of that you get, right? The advice, the outline of an immigration strategy,
Hmm.
answering any questions that you have for the low cost of 200 to 400 bucks. Now, as Christina mentioned in the beginning, I did do my own immigration when I came here way back when dinosaurs roamed the earth in 2008. And I wished that I had
Just paid
had a
some money.
consultation
Yeah.
with a lawyer or a
Yep.
consultant back then. And I didn't, right? I was exactly as you described, Christina. I was exactly like that. Like I didn't have a lot of money, right? We're very young at that time. I was only like, 23. And I was like, no, we'll figure it out. Like, and English is our first language. Like we're educated, all this stuff. We can figure it out.
Hmm.
But let me tell you something. Totally made
Hmm.
a grievous error, based on information that we found on the forums, right, online. And yeah, luckily for me, like seriously, thank you. Nothing came of it. It was okay. Everything was fine. It was only just a little bit of humiliation at the
Right.
border as CBSA was like, what are you doing? But that was fine. They let me in and everything was okay. But then at the end, we were like, oh my God, we really shouldn't have done that. What did we do? And then we were terrified the rest of the time, right? Whereas if I had just had a conversation with a consultant or lawyer back then, they probably would have told me, just do it yourself, right? Like you can do it. The application was completely fine,
Yeah.
but it was the path that I took to get there. It was totally wrong, right? So, for the low price of, back then, 100 bucks, I wouldn't have had to like worry and die
Hmm.
inside every
Hmm.
day for a
Hmm.
whole year while this was in process. And how much is that worth? Way
Yes.
more than the $100.
Yes.
So
And if I could just jump in, sorry,
by all means,
I
yes.
think part of it too is thinking about the low price of $200 to $400 compared to the cost of fixing the mistake,
Yes, ma'am.
right? Especially if you do have to go home, right? That's expensive. That is
Absolutely. How much is
moving.
a plane ticket?
Exactly.
Especially on short notice.
Exactly. Right? But
You
yeah.
could not be more right. No, you could not be more right. And
Hmm.
and the thing is too, this is assuming it can be fixed, right? This is
Exactly.
assuming that the mess can be cleaned up. No,
Exactly.
you're absolutely right. It's going to cost way more than the 200 or $400,
Yep.
right? It's going to be in the thousands to fix something that has gotten refused,
Hmm.
or God forbid you get that procedural fairness letter. Like nobody wants
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
but it's going to be way more than $400 for
Way
sure.
more.
And
Yes.
that's if it can even be fixed.
Yes.
Sometimes it can't. It can't be undone. Like
Hmm.
that poor lady who had gone to the border and got that work permit
Hmm.
cannot be undone.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
so getting that knowledge, priceless,
Yes.
as we used to say.
Yes.
So another thing to keep in mind that it doesn't really, again, have a dollar amount, but a good representative, they will put you at ease immediately. They'll
Hmm.
answer your questions
Hmm.
honestly
Hmm.
and in a straightforward way that you can understand, right? They're
Yeah.
not going to speak legalese to you. They're not going to talk down to you. Let me tell you, there are people out there who will do that. And it's very easy. Just don't work with them. Just
Yeah.
walk away. Just be like, okay, well, thanks. And you never speak to them again. No one should be treating you in such a way. I know I've been treated that way by professionals in the past.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I would never give them another dollar.
Yeah.
But the representative would never make you feel that way, right? They're going
Hmm.
to make sure that they're crystal clear about the law and the regulations and how they impact your specific case. And they
Hmm.
might confirm info that you already knew because you're
Yeah.
very well researched,
Exactly.
or
Yeah.
they might teach you something you had no idea about.
Hmm.
But you'll be able to relate to them and understand your case on a level that you did not know
Yeah.
before.
Yep. Yep.
Now, one thing I will mention is this, having a representative is not a magic wand, okay? It
No.
doesn't bring you to the front of the line
No.
or guarantee 100% it's going to be approved. Totally not.
No.
But what it does do is it maximizes your chances of approval
Hmm.
by leveraging legal arguments and court decisions that favor your case.
Hmm.
And it also ensures that the small details remain correct and consistent throughout the application
Hmm.
process,
Hmm.
because I am not exaggerating when I say one box accidentally left unticked. This can mean a refusal, right? I will say I have had many clients over the years come to me because their express entry application has been canceled as incomplete because
Ah.
they scanned their police clearance in black and white instead of
Mm.
it's
Mm.
crazy, right? But these
Hmm.
tiny, tiny details truly can make the difference. And let me tell you, sometimes you only have one chance,
You only
right?
have
If you
one
got
chance.
that invitation to apply, do you want to take a chance? Right? Do you want to take a chance that something is wrong or
Yep.
that you miss it? I wouldn't. I don't gamble. I like a sure thing. So I would definitely keep that in mind. And as we mentioned earlier, without a representative assisting you, you're navigating a complex legal process with profound consequences totally blindly.
Yeah.
So, an experienced representative, they have been dealing with this process for years. They've seen it evolve, they've seen it change, and they know everything important that's going
Hmm.
to impact your particular case.
Yep.
But crowdsourcing advice from armchair experts on TikTok and Reddit is like searching for a needle in a haystack. Like,
Hmm.
okay, great job. If you found the needle, that's great. I'm happy for
Exactly.
you. But most likely, you're just going to end
Yes.
up frustrated.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. And then I want to just, for people, point out the difference between a legal representative and an immigration consultant, an immigration lawyer, and an agent. Okay? Because I know several agents who sent people to school, to private institutions to study, to then go and hopefully figure it out. Right. And so you have to be able to decipher between, it's easy to know who a legal representative is because they are listed on the RCIC, the CICC website, the College of Immigration and Citizenship Canada, right? And so they are
Absolutely.
licensed, they're on there. If they're not on there, red flag, right? Because so
100%.
many people right now I know are in hot water because they were sent here by an agent who told them half the story, which is school. Go to school in Canada. Once you have your foot in, then things will work out. They went to private institutions. They can't get a post-graduation work permit, and now they're kind of, struggling in the streets out there. So know who you're talking to as well. So now, so somebody goes to an immigration consultant, right? And they're well researched, all these wonderful things. What should they be saying? Like, what are the top 3 questions that they should be asking this immigration consultant to make their $200 conversation worthwhile?
Okay, this is a great question. So just actually want to go back to something that you just said, Christina. So before you even speak with the consultant or lawyer, you need to do some research. All right. The first thing you want to look for is what's their rating on Google. Because if everybody doesn't like this person, then just go to the next. Okay, just go to the next. You also want to find out how long they've been in business, right? Have they been around for a decade or, 10 minutes? Very important. Now, something that you just said that is absolutely paramount. Are they licensed? And are they in good standing with their licensing body? So the licensing body, as you said, for consultants, it's CICC. That's Canadian Immigration and Citizenship Consultants, right? For lawyers, that is the Law Society of their province. So Law Society of Ontario, Law Society of BC, whatever. In Quebec, it is the Chambre des Notaires du Québec. All right, so that's who licenses Quebec. They're called notaries in Quebec, but it's a French thing. So these are the licensing bodies that you can look and see. Does this person, number one, do they have a license at all? Are they who they say they are? Do they have a license? Number 2, have they ever had disciplinary action taken against them? Because, okay, maybe they have a license, but maybe they defrauded a bunch of people, right? So you can see this in their history, and it's right there, right online. It's dead easy, right? Just go to their website and you can just look them up. It's super, super easy. Another good thing to research beforehand is, are they a legitimate business entity? All right. So as an immigration consultant, we are required to either have a provincial master business license or be incorporated, right? We must have a provincial business license or be incorporated. So if someone is none of those things, they ain't a consultant, not a thing. And then lawyers have similar regulations. They have to either have a professional corporation or, something like that. So it's easy to tell, right? If this person's like, just send it to my bank account, they are not a licensed representative. So very important. And then also, is this really who you're talking to? Because I want to be so upfront with you. There is so much fraud in the immigration industry. There are so many liars, so many fakes. Do not take anything on face value. Nothing, not a single thing. So find out, is this person who they say they are, right? You can't just trust anyone. And it's funny because there's in a lot of cultures, there's this sort of inclination that you want to trust people who are in your in group, right? You want to trust somebody who's in your town, in wherever you're coming from, rather than trusting someone across the ocean in Canada. And this is actually backwards, right? This is actually backwards because the people who are in Canada are actually subject to the laws of Canada, whereas the people who are not in Canada are not, right? So very, very important to make sure that you're actually talking to the person that you think you're talking to.
Yeah.
So once you have vetted this person and done this preliminary research and you found someone that you like and you want to have a conversation with them, great. So there's some important questions that you can ask. Number 1, here's a good one. Can you guarantee that my application will be approved? The answer is no. It is a trick question. Okay. If anyone ever says 100%, I can guarantee this application is approved, that is a lie. Right? That is a lie. No, no one can guarantee this. Even the most obvious, straightforward application, right? These people have been married for 50 years, their sponsorship, I cannot say, oh, yes, I guarantee. No, if someone says that, it's not true, and you should go the other way. What they can say is, there's no reason for this not to be approved,
Mm-hmm.
right? Similar applications I've had have all been approved.
Mm-hmm.
These are things I tell people when this is the truth, right? When this is the case. But I will never say, oh, yes, I guarantee 100%. Anybody who says that, red flag. Another really, really, really important question. Honestly, it's one of the best ones you can ask. Will you refund my fees if my application is refused?
Mm-hmm.
This is another trick question because immigration consultants are not allowed to refund your fees if your application is refused. This is something called contingency billing, and it's completely illegal. We cannot do this. We cannot refund your fees if your application was refused. It's literally against the law.
Right.
Now, a lawyer can engage in contingency billing. I'm sure you've seen, the ads on the bus, like we don't get paid unless you win, that kind of thing.
Right.
A lawyer can do that, but none of them will. Okay. No immigration lawyer in Canada is going to refund your fees if you got refused.
Right.
Totally not. So if you ask someone, will you refund my fees if I get refused? And they say, yes, we give a partial refund, 50%, or even, 1 penny, go the other way, because either they are not licensed or they're willfully breaking the law. Right. So totally look out for that. Contingency billing, not a thing in immigration. A great question to ask as well is, what's your success rate? Now, with this one, there is no wrong answer, right? You're never really going to know if someone is telling the truth. So you have to just use your people skills, right? Try and suss it out. If someone says, 100% of these applications are approved, to me, that's a bit of a red flag. It's possible that they've never had one of those applications refused. And for certain types of applications, that actually could be the truth, right? It could be the truth. But certain types of applications just have high refusal rates across the board. If someone tells you they've never had a study permit refused, lie, not true. If someone says, I've never had a visitor visa refused, no, absolutely not the case. It's almost impossible for that to be true. If someone says, I've never had a sponsorship refused, it's possible, maybe depending on where their clients come from. If all of their sponsorship clients are from Australia, they may probably didn't have a refusal. You know what I mean? There's no, generally speaking, no reason for that to be refused. But you just have to really sort of use your people skills and, keep your antennae up for any red flags to that answer.
Right.
And then a great question, one of my favorite questions you can ask is, can I review the retainer agreement? So before you pay any representative, consultant, lawyer, whomever they are, they should be sending you a document called a retainer agreement. And the retainer agreement is just simply the contract that outlines the terms and conditions of your professional relationship with each other.
Right.
So in the retainer agreement, it says, okay, there's the things that we are going to do for you as part of our service. It specifies exactly what the service is. It specifies exactly how much this is going to cost. What are the payments? When are they due? Which currency are they being paid in? This should be clear as day, black and white on the retainer agreement. And they're going to send it to you, right? If someone says, oh yeah, can I see your retainer agreement? I'll say, absolutely, no problem. It'll be in your email today. No problem. If anyone is ever cagey or reluctant to provide a retainer agreement, red flag, go the other way.
Okay. All right. And then what are some red flags? I think, did we talk about the red flags about people? Because some sites I find there's an immigration company. They don't say consultants. That's one flag. And in the About Us section, you can't find a single person. I generally think, for me, that's a red flag of a company. There's no sign of who's behind this page. So what are some of the red flags that people should look out for?
So this is an excellent point that you make. First of all, that is illegal. We are not allowed, if we are licensed, we are not allowed to have a website or any type of marketing material that does not make it obvious who we are, right? If you have a lawyer or a consultant, they will absolutely have their name and their license number right there, plain as day, on the website or,
Mm-hmm.
on the social media or whatever. If it's not there, if it's exactly like you described, Christina, and you can't tell who exactly this is, either it's fake
Mm-hmm.
or they're breaking the law, right?
Yeah.
So either way, walk away. So
Mm-hmm.
100%, that is a giant red flag,
Yeah.
giant red flag. So a couple of other things you can look for to, avoid getting caught in any type of fraudulent transaction. So number one, if a person is not licensed to provide Canadian Immigration Service, do not work with them, full stop.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
There are thousands of licensed immigration consultants
Mm-hmm.
and lawyers
Yep.
who are great. You
Mm-hmm.
do not need to use someone who is not licensed. There is
Yeah.
absolutely no reason. And
Mm-hmm.
if you do use someone who is not licensed and they misrepresent on your behalf
Mm-hmm.
or they steal your money, you're out
Mm-hmm.
of luck. There's
Yeah.
nothing anyone can do. You're
Mm-hmm.
totally out of luck here.
Mm-hmm.
So you're only hurting yourself if you don't work with someone who's licensed. So that's number one.
Yes.
Um, if a person asks you for money without sending a retainer agreement,
Mm-hmm.
right? Huge red flag, because anyone who's licensed, we must send a retainer agreement. We are compelled legally to do so. So anyone
Yes.
who doesn't send you the contract, just walk away, because
Mm-hmm.
there's a reason I don't want you to have the contract.
Mm-hmm.
If someone tries and gives you the hard sell, right? If someone's rushing you into making a decision, even if there's no impending deadline. Now, don't get me wrong. If you have an invitation to apply for PR and it expires next week,
Yeah.
it's a rush. Like, we
It's a
need to
rush.
deal with this immediately. And
Yeah.
I will tell you this. I will say, listen, your deadline is right now. We need to know by the end of the day
Mm-hmm.
if you want to do this, because we need to make sure that if we're going to take you on as a client, we can actually deliver the service, right?
Right.
We can't do this if you only have 2 days left. It's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
Or if someone's status is expiring on Friday and today is Wednesday, it's possible we can still help them, but we got to do this today. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
need to do this today.
Yeah.
However, short of that, no one should be rushing you.
Mm-hmm.
No one should be rushing you. If the person is putting you under any kind of pressure to choose them and pay, red flag, walk away. Walk away. You don't need that. There's no reason to put pressure on you at all.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that professionals exist is to give you the information, and then you can do with it what you choose, right? So anybody who's pressuring you, just walk away.
Yeah.
Another red flag is that you cannot find any information about this person online. Huge red flag. It is 2025. Everyone has an online footprint. Okay.
Yep.
So
Yep.
if you're finding someone who is licensed and experienced, you're going to be able to find them online.
Easily.
There's no excuse. If you
Mm-hmm.
can't find them, it's because they're not real.
Mm-hmm.
Or, really, by the same token, if you find contradictory information about this person online,
Mm-hmm.
right? If their Instagram says they work for a different company than their
Oh, yeah.
Facebook,
Yeah.
or if their TikTok says they live in this country, but they have a different accent, I'll give you an example. The Doherty in Doherty Foltz Immigration, he's from Ireland, okay? And at one point, there was a person pretending to be him who was, so Doherty, this like white Irish guy, okay? This person was, they were African, and they were misrepresenting, pretending to be this white Irish guy. So, like, if you see something that just does not add up, this is not the same
Yeah.
person, not the same person.
Yep.
If the person, and here's the easiest way to make sure this doesn't happen, get on a video call. Say,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no problem. I just want to jump on a quick video call. If they will not have a video call, get out. It's because they're not who they say they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's because that they're saying they're white Irish guy and they're on a completely different continent and are definitely not that guy,
Yeah.
right? So if they refuse to get on a call, then you should know this is not who this is.
Mm-hmm.
If they insist on a cash payment, right? If they insist on cash. Now, we accept cash. There's nothing wrong. Cash is king. There's nothing wrong with accepting cash as payment. It's legal tender.
Yeah.
But if they say, no, you have to pay cash,
Cash.
no, this is a scam. Do not do it. And then most importantly, if you have a bad feeling,
Yep.
it's
Trust
your gut. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. If they don't pass the gut check,
Yeah.
just say no. There's another immigration consultant right behind them. So
Yeah.
just keep on going until you find someone that you
Mm-hmm.
like. So All of these are red flags. And if you're still not sure, a couple of other questions you can ask to really sort of suss it out are you can ask them something like, which section of the law governs my case?
Mm-hmm.
And an experienced consultant or lawyer, they'll be able to rattle it off right
Yeah.
now. Now,
Mm-hmm.
even if they don't know the exact section of the law, they'll be able to send it to you.
Yeah.
Right? They'll be able to send it to you in 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone is doing, a humanitarian and compassionate application with me and they
Mm-hmm.
say, oh, which section of the law governs this? I'll tell them it's section 25.1 of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
then I'll say, and I'll send it to you in an email so you can read it yourself.
Yeah.
No problem. There
Mm-hmm.
should be complete transparency.
Mm-hmm.
Everything should be completely obvious to you.
Yes.
And this should be facilitated
Mm-hmm.
by your representative. And if they are doing anything less,
Mm-hmm.
then either they're not a licensed representative or they're not a very good one.
Yeah.
You can also ask them questions about how they do business, like what's your service standard for communication, or
Mm-hmm.
questions, how soon will I hear back from you? They should
Yeah.
know the answer straight away. I can
Yes.
tell you that ours, we try to get back to you the same day, but the maximum is 2 business days, right?
Right.
They should know this. Or what's your preferred method of communication? We actually have to specify the preferred method in the retainer agreement. So they
Right.
should be able to say in 2 seconds, oh, it's email.
Right.
So,
Perfect.
these are some things you can do. There is no completely foolproof way.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go through all these things, let me tell you, scammers, they're
Mm-hmm.
on for the easy target.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you
Mm-hmm.
start asking these questions like that, they're just going to drop you and move on,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're just going to block you and say, not worth it.
Yeah.
No thanks. And they're
Yep.
just going to move on to the next person who didn't do any due diligence. So
Yes.
this is a great way to protect yourself.
Mm-hmm. And a great way is referrals. Like people who know people who have used an immigration consultant. You're watching this video right now, you know me, or you might know me. Now I know Cassandra, and now I can vouch for Cassandra. Like that's people will know what their experience was like prior, and they weren't scammed, so therefore it's probably okay. But still, now you have a checklist, a red flag checklist. Go through the checklist, make sure you have it all figured out. Okay. Now, 2025. I mentioned some alarming statistics, right? And one I didn't mention was that there's 3 million and 49,277 temporary residents, but in 2025, only 395,000 will get permanent residency, which means that a lot of people whose permit expire in 2025 will probably fall out of status, right? Because there's more people than seats on the bus. Right?
Absolutely.
So now, I mean, right now, the media is throwing around this word. I do think that they're misusing it and causing people to panic and putting some fear of God into people. But let's talk a little bit about deportation and mass deportation, because if they fall out of status, I mean, so people are doing their due diligence and getting a visitor's record or whatever, hopefully. Some people are not, right? And they're kind of just staying and hoping for the best and are probably here illegally. Is what will happen when people fall out of status this year, next year, and the year after? And is mass deportation actually enforceable?
So this is a really good question. Christina, I totally agree with you. The media is throwing this word around. Why? Because it gets clicks. People are saying that the hashtagable mass deportation. So it doesn't really work like that, even when people do get deported. Now, one thing I will mention is that it is possible, as you said, tons of people, thousands and thousands of people are going to be falling out of status this year and next year in 2025 and 2026. Now, it is possible that thousands and thousands of people will get deported. It won't all happen in one day, but it will happen. You can't just think, oh, they're never going to come after me. It's never going to happen to me. No, they can and they will. And, to be clear, CBSA, Canada Border Services, is not ICE, right? In the US, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. CBSA does not have the budget or the manpower of ICE. They don't have the same resources. However, they do have the will, especially with President Trump back in office to the South. Because if you saw the press conference this morning, they're literally already talking about these things to make President Trump happy so that we don't end up in a tariff, trade war, right? So starting right now, Canada has more political will than it's probably ever had to deport people,
Yeah.
in its history. Now, for anybody whose status is expiring soon, or has already expired. I do
Mhm.
have some thoughts to,
Right.
to consider. Number one, speak with a professional. Okay. The time for DIY is over once your status is about to expire or
Yeah.
has expired.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, Christina, doing a visitor record application, let's say your work permit is expiring, and you don't have a means to get another one, change to visitor. Change
Hmm.
to visitor. It's
Hmm.
almost always a great thing to do,
Hmm.
because you stay in status no matter
Yeah.
what, and it gives
Yeah.
you time to plot your next move.
Right.
However,
Hmm.
speak to someone before you change to a visitor. And the reason
Hmm.
I say that is, if you have a work permit and you change to visitor, if it turns out actually there was some work permit that you could get, now you cannot apply for it from inside
As you're a
Canada,
visitor.
right?
Hmm.
So now you'll have to either, you can physically be here in Canada and submit the application, but you'll have to leave and come back to get it. And there's no more flag polling, so that's out. And so basically, in order to like bridge a work permit, you have to be on a work permit to get the work permit.
Yeah.
So changing to visitor is a good option just to make sure you stay in status.
Hmm.
But before you do this and
Yeah.
make that irrevocable decision,
Hmm.
talk to a professional
Yep.
first. Make
Yep.
sure it's actually the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Um, as we said earlier, don't make a refugee claim unless you're actually a refugee. And if you were a refugee, you probably would have made that claim when you came into Canada. So almost certainly that's not the right advice unless there has been some sort of political revolution suddenly and unexpectedly while you were here. That's called a refugee sur place, and that is real.
Yes.
But unless that's you, then
Hmm.
don't do it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Don't take Reddit or Facebook advice. Please, please, please do not get your immigration advice from TikTok. Speak with a licensed, experienced professional about
Yep.
your particular case.
Hmm.
And, most importantly, don't lose hope. Don't
Yeah.
lose hope.
Hmm.
Even if someone has been out of status for years, there are options that may be able to fix this.
Yeah.
Things like humanitarian and compassionate applications or temporary resident permits. I have many clients who have come to me after they've been here literally for over a decade,
Hmm.
right? And who are able to actually end up on the other side with status. So don't lose hope,
Yeah.
but don't just leave it. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
leave
Yeah.
it. It's a festering wound. Please see the doctor. Please talk to a licensed professional.
Yes.
And if someone has been deported, right, if the worst has happened and they've gotten on a plane and they've had to leave, right, maybe even under escort by CBSA, even so, speak with a professional because
Yeah.
it may be possible to
Hmm.
bring them back
Hmm.
if they follow the right steps. If
Hmm.
they follow the right steps. And
Hmm.
again, that is not DIY stuff. You
Hmm.
definitely are going to need the assistance of a professional for those types of matters.
Right. And I like that you brought up the whole thing about deported and being escorted and all that stuff. Because deportation, like I think a lot of people misunderstand it in its nature. Because if you've overstayed, you might get a removal order, it won't come to somebody knocking on your door. It's time to go pack your bags. You know what I mean? It's like there's just procedures and stuff in
Generally
place.
not.
Yes. Right?
Generally not.
But I think that is the fear of God that people are being,
Absolutely.
like when they're watching these videos, like, oh my God, somebody's gonna come knocking on my door. It's not gonna happen. It's expensive to deport people from Canada.
It's very expensive, actually. Yes, you're
Yeah.
totally correct.
All right. So all of this said and done. I mean, you know what? We want to end on a relatively positive note as well, right? Like, guys, obviously the message is that this is not the time for DIY. Okay, it's not predictable anymore. It's not. It is a burning fire that you need to call the troops and the helicopters and all of that stuff to out this fire, right? So we want to say that to you that whether it is from Cassandra, whoever it is, you need to get help, right? But if you might share a success story, share a success story of maybe, I don't know, your most recent client or somebody relative to what's going on right now who got through by the skin of their teeth, something nice and juicy, a
For
success
sure.
story that is, of
Uh,
course, there's still hope, right?
there is still hope, okay? There's always hope. There's always hope. Never give up. So I'll tell you two things. The first thing that I will tell you is quick but potent.
Hmm.
And that is, you may remember, or for some of the viewers, and maybe before your time in Canada, but way back in 2021, there was an express entry draw of 27,700 people. Okay,
Score
they
of 75.
cleaned out the pool. That's
Yep.
right. And the CRS score, the lowest score on that day, was 75 points.
Hmm.
So basically, if you were in the pool and you had a pulse, you got an ITA. Okay, you got
Exactly.
an ITA. I have clients who were in the pool on that day. I'm
Mhm.
talking about people who had like 200 points, 150 points, right? There was a client, he was like 65. Okay, got PR. So my point is, never say no. You can't win unless you're in.
Yeah,
So my
yes.
recommendation for everyone, no matter what, is always be in the pool.
Yep.
Always be in the pool because nobody knows what they're going to do. Nobody knows what they're going to do. First of all, we're definitely facing an election. Who knows what the next government is going to do? Like programs come and programs go, but there will be a new program and you
Mhm.
never know. It could be you, but
Mhm.
not if you're not in the pool. So no matter what, be in the pool. It
Mhm.
never hurts to be in the pool. It's free, right? So be in the pool. So
Mhm.
that's one thing.
Mhm.
The other story that I will share with you that really is positive is about it is a humanitarian and compassionate case. This person, I had actually known them for years and did not know that they were illegally in Canada, right? They had come to Canada years ago and just never left, right? Never left. And this came to my attention, and I was like, you can't live like this. You can't just leave this, right? Like, please, like, let me help you. And so we did an application for them on humanitarian and compassionate grounds to stay. They weren't eligible for permanent residence on any other, on any other stream, or, there was no other option for them. But they had so much support, from the community. They're an integral part of life in the people's lives that they touch. And you know, they never thought it would be possible, but I remember the real tears that were shed on both sides when they held that PR card in their hands.
Mhm.
So never give up, no matter what. But you have to deal with it. You can't just let it be and let it fester. And that's the thing. If they had never said anything to me, it would still be illegal today.
Mhm.
Still be worried, still be
Mhm.
afraid, still be dreading, like you said, Christina, that knock on the door, right?
Yeah.
Of am I have to go home? And the thing
Yeah.
is, you never know,
You
right?
never
Like
know.
it's not generally what happens, but it can happen. It can
Yeah.
happen. So you don't want to live like that,
No.
and you don't have to.
Yeah.
So seek help. Seek
Yes.
help. It doesn't have to happen like that, that
Mhm.
you're just living out your days in some sort of limbo or purgatory. It's horrible. It's a terrible way to live. So please do reach out. And I'll tell you that is one of the high points of my career, and it's why I do what I do, is being able to help people
Mhm.
like that. And it means everything to me. That one also lives rent free in my mind, and I will never forget it.
Yeah, so you have some good tenants and you have some not so good tenants in your
That's it.
mind. And then one final word of advice for temporary residents. I mean, you guys got so many nuggets just now, but if you could say one thing to leave temporary residents with, what would be that piece of advice?
For sure. Plan ahead. Plan ahead. Know when your documents expire.
Yeah.
Don't let it expire. Okay. Plan ahead and be proactive
Hmm.
about your next steps.
Hmm.
Please do not think that you can solve your problem of staying in Canada when your work permit expires 2 months from now. Like
Yeah.
you need to get ahead of
Yeah.
this, even
Hmm.
like a year out. A year out is it's not too far in advance, right? Talk to someone
Hmm.
proactively to determine a strategy and go from there. Do
Yes.
not wait and sit on it until, oh, my status expires, like, 3 months. Because it's too late. It's too
Yeah.
late. So plan ahead and be proactive. And always remember when your documents actually expire.
Yes. Yes. I know somebody whose his documents expired. And it wasn't until he got let go from his job and he had to go find a new job, he
Oh,
realized that his thing expired more than the restoration
it's
state,
terrible.
more than
That's
his.
it, right?
Yep.
And it could be fixed if you just knew what day you expire.
Yep.
So really be on top of that.
Set an alarm, guys. Put it on your
Yes,
calendar. Something. You know what
absolutely.
I mean?
Yes.
Yes. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure. I'm happy. This is one of many guys. You'll be seeing this face. You'll be hearing these names. You can get through to Cassandra. All of our information is right there. I can't point on your screen. So I'm just like, right? All the information is there. Dorothy Foltz Immigration. I was about to say construction. Dorothy Foltz Immigration, right? And they have a full team of experts that are ready and waiting to help you. If this video was at all helpful for you, please hit that like button. Share this with somebody who you know needs to hear this message. And we will see you in the next video. See you next time. Bye. If you find value after watching this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to this channel.